Not supposed to be kicking and screaming like that after 20 years, man. Supposed to be making songs that
Has
sound
it
like...
been that long?
This is more than just a collection of some of your finest moments put into an album form. Rebel Diamonds, beautiful artwork, poignant name, says a lot. We'll get into that a little bit. A beautiful reflection on the history and the success of a band that you called The Killers. To me, it's more personal than that because it's part of my journey. Like you showed up at a time, not to make it personal, but I can't help it. You showed up at a time when I was making a huge leap forward to try and find my voice and my value to music and an audience. And Brightside showed up and changed my life too.
Yeah. No, it's wild. When we first went overseas and you were you were the taste maker.
I just got that job, right? Though.
It was like to have your support for us early on was huge. If we should go through the when you were young and the human story that I have with you also.
I would like to go through those too. Yeah, because they're great stories for me. I'm going to get out of the way of those. But I mean, it really was a moment when a song showed up and you felt the direction that music fans who love music of that emotional caliber shifted just a couple of degrees. It doesn't have to go 180. Everyone talks about how something comes along and shakes the world up. Sometimes it's just an ever so slight shift. But if you go 20 years, you're very far from where you would have gone if you kept going down that straight line. That's what I'm trying to say. That song not only put you on a trajectory, but music fans who love the Killers and love that kind of music on a trajectory very far from where we were headed. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome, everybody.
Yeah, thank you for all of it. And also, thanks for taking so much care on this. Let's talk about the concept of best ofs or greatest hits or whatever you want to call them. It's a beautiful idea that got kind of co-opted by the music industry and by artists, to be fair, and used in lots of ways that I don't think it was originally intended to be used. It was used to get out of record contracts.
That's right.
It was used to help to sell ticket sales and just give people a reminder that their new music isn't quite hitting like their old music was. And it really became something that a lot of other people did for artists. Like just to sell records and get some revenue when Christmas time, greatest hits, let's go. I mean, it became a cliche. And what's beautiful about this is that I know this is a very personal collection because there's stuff on here that you left off. You kept it at 20 for 20 years and you made really personal decisions. So thank you for that. And how has that experience been?
Yeah, it's been wild. So what's funnily enough for me, my introduction to some of the bands that shaped me was through best ofs.
Yeah.
I know it's not like it's a little bit frowned upon. But my first cassette that I went and spent money on was the Cars' greatest hits.
Every kid should start there because how are you discerning beyond that?
Yeah, so it's a nice, easy, approachable way to a band for starters. And it allowed us, like you referenced, to also shine a light on some songs that have taken on a whole other journey than they were meant to early on, and then also some songs that maybe didn't see as much light as we'd hoped, maybe because of COVID or whatever it was.
Yeah, no, within the context of all of it, it is a beautiful start to finish experience that shows an enormous amount of journey that has been traveled, but also that you have remained true to those early fires that each of you brought into that rehearsal space, into that writing room. All of your personalities are still very strong all the way through, I think.
Yeah, it's tough. It's funny. It's tough to extract. Yeah. And it's tough to get them out of there because there is a magic to it. There's a magic to the whatever you want to call it.
The chemistry.
The chemistry, yeah. What everybody brings to the table. And it can be apparent if somebody's not firing on all cylinders or if they're not there.
Yeah. And
we try to make up for that when that isn't possible, but it's the heartbeat's always there. Vannucci's always
Vannucci.
There.
The party always continues. The party continues. I mean, that was the running text me and him had for about 10 years. We haven't done it for a while, but we just sporadically text each other and just go, does the party continue? That would just be what we say. Either one of us would do it. Neither of us were partying. Just the idea made us smile. Do you remember what it was like? Let's be real specific here. Do you remember, can you put into words the feeling when you fired up for the first time?
Oh yeah. So for me, it was. It's funny because it does predate a couple other guys, but for me, I remember me and Dave had written Mr. Brightside, but we didn't have a drummer yet, and so there was this moment where we were just at a guy's house who was trying out to be the drummer for the Killers, and we said we have this song, and it's about this tempo, and we showed him Mr. Brightside. And so it was my first time hearing it with a beat.
What was he doing? 16ths on the hi-hats?
Yeah, I mean, it was trying to, it had some heat.
It's a quick tune.
Yeah, it had some heat, and I was on the bass because I can hold down eighth notes on a bass. That's about all I can do. Very well.
Like everything you do.
but listen, so
it's got a hell of a jump shot as well, but nothing inside the paint.
So I'd been touched by music, for some time at that point, but never my own. Yeah. And I'm hearing this song and singing this song for the first time, and my hairs are standing up, and I'm like, what? This is wild. This is our song. Yeah. And that was that. I mean, once you feel that, it's tough. It's tough to turn around and want to do anything else.
I mean, what a hand! What a hand to keep it in Vegas. What a hand at the table, top of the night.
Yeah, it was incredible.
I want to then take it to when Ronnie stepped in, because to your point, great drummers are the difference between great songs and careers.
It's true. That's something I was not aware of. I was green when we first started. I was only 20 years old. I was using a fake ID to play in the bars that we were playing in. And I did not quite appreciate what everybody needed to bring to the table for us to be a success and for us to have staying power. And I'll tell you a funny story about that is somebody that does know about that is somebody like Noel Gallagher. And we were doing the NME tour, and we're playing at Brixton Academy or something. And we heard that Noel's going to come to this show. So he's probably there to see Franz Ferdinand or Kaiser, or somebody, but he's
on the guest list.
But he's coming. And after the gig, we finish. Here he comes. This is one of my heroes. He walks in the door, and I'm so excited. Walks straight past me, straight to Vannucci.
It's got taste.
And it was just I was like, oh shit, we better keep an eye on what Oasis drummer's doing. But he was a huge fan of him right away.
I mean, in many respects, when you first started performing these songs live, and I know because you acknowledge it in this beautiful letter, you don't mind me making this observation on a personal level, we were looking at him more than we were looking at you. It felt like he was stage ready, you were finding your feet.
Yeah, he was definitely more seasoned. He had been in a lot of bands and toured, and this was my first real band. And so I say, people ask me why I sing the way I do, and it's because he's on the drums.
Yeah.
I got to keep up with him.
Yeah. But I remember seeing some early shows with you and the songs were hitting. It was the other way round. Back then, you would see a band live and be like, oh, they're ready. And then it would take them 2 albums to find their sound. You had these songs that were just ready-made. Yeah. And then we'd go see you perform live, and it was like you were trying to figure out what you meant to the songs you'd written.
Yeah, that's right. I was so nervous. And you know what? And I'm not trying to sound self-deprecating or humble, but I had such admiration and reverence for the greats that it just felt I felt so
Imposter
out
syndrome?
of place. Absolutely. Like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
And it took years and years for me to finally say, okay, I belong.
I actually think it took when we were young. I think that's, to me, like you say years and years fair, but I actually think that it wasn't even album number 2. It was that song gave you from a fan's point of view, gave you your theme song, your anthem that was yours to own, and you could put your costume on, because that's what it is. Yeah. You can't be yourself on stage.
I know.
You've got.
Can I tell another story now? That just because that segues into it. This is not name dropping. It's just lessons I've learned.
We're here for stories.
All right. The lessons I've learned over the years. So we did on our B-sides record. We have a song called Tranquilize. We did with Lou Reed. Yeah. And there's this amazing moment where we're filming the video. Everybody's on the location, and I'm in a room. It's just me and Lou. Yeah. And he came in his street clothes. Yeah. But he's getting ready for the video, and he's leathered out. just like all, leather pants, leather boots, leather jacket.
Yeah.
And me and him are in the room alone, and there's a big mirror, and he looks at himself. He's got sunglasses on, the whole thing, and he points at himself and he says, "I wish I was that guy." Oh. And my whole world shifted. Here's Lou Reed. So I feel like I want to keep it for myself, but I think people should hear that story.
I'm emotional.
Yeah, it was like
I'm emotional, not just because he's no longer here, because that's what I want people who changed our lives to say when they acknowledge themselves as the people we saw.
Absolutely.
I don't need to know the real Lou Reed. It's none of my business. I want to know that guy.
Yeah. And it was profound for me, man. And so
it's profound now.
Yeah, it's
seriously.
amazing.
It's incredible. It's really hit me that because I just think I'm so glad you told that story. It's such a beautiful reminder that we have to let the artist continually change shape.
Yeah. So back to when you were young, it was like you said, to be able to take ownership of something. I mean, after that huge monumental record, that first record was, to be able to have a song like that.
Oh, dude, it was so good because you were one of 4 or 5 bands that came out at the same time and you held your own. Yeah. And you made what I would consider to be a classic 2000s alternative record, right? Could have stayed there. A lot did. Sadly, a lot did. Yeah. And yet that song was like, bye. It's like your car was all of a sudden 6 miles down the road. Do you know what I mean?
We had Flood and Mulder at producing.
Sure.
And we had our eyes. We always were looking up, I guess. And it was all, of course, we're big admirers of U2 and people that had these crazy careers and did great things. So I think that helped that ambition that we always had. Now can I tell the Zane Lowe story? So legitimately, so it's obvious now that was the right choice when you were young. But we were sort of torn between that and another song called Bling on the record, which is a great song. Mm-hmm. We're proud of it, proud of both. But we didn't know what should be the first single. So who should you call? We call Zane Lowe to come to the studio.
And can I say, I don't do this. And the reason I don't do this is because it's your album, dudes. Like, I mean,
it was a stressful decision.
You also didn't tell me that was what was on the table. You just said, come hear some songs. And we sat down and it was the Flood sessions.
That's
you played me 6 songs, including Bling. And we're like, we've got it, right? Do you remember?
That's right, yeah.
You didn't play me when you were young.
I know, but when we did...
No, because I said, I don't know if you have it. Oh, the fucking nuts on me. I mean, seriously, what was I thinking?
No, but when we did, and your reaction was, it was so obvious.
I got angry. Do you remember?
No,
I got angry because you took me upstairs to Mulder's room and said, well, we have this other song, but it's not finished yet. And
the bridge wasn't quite finished.
You convinced Alan to play it to me in its infancy.
That's right.
And I was like, the fuck are you wasting my time for?
That is true. I forgot there were 2. We had the studio separated.
Yeah, Flood was downstairs and you were like, we've got it. And I was like, I don't know. Is there anything else? And you were like, well, there's one other song. Took me upstairs and I felt like I was on candid camera.
It was so that really. I mean, that's a huge moment in our career. Being, you got to choose the right single.
I love you telling that story. I've also quietly told that story to a few close friends because I'm proud of that moment too. But that song was going to kick its own way through.
Yeah,
I mean that song is a wild horse.
It's funny. That's what. Have you heard my? Oh, anyway. We're going to do a little bit of a spoken word introduction to this best of, and I refer to it as a horse.
It is. I'm so glad we're on the same page because it totally is. It's just, it's so beautiful and completely untamed, and it's still untamed. And I love in the letter you referred to the first time you played it in Blackpool. I was there. That was a Radio 1 show, and I was there.
Oh man, yeah, that was
you fucking wound up with it, dude. And I think, was that the first time you realized that you had made it in the perfect jumping tempo?
That was
I didn't even realize, and then everyone's just like, it's like they're jumping with everything.
It was just a wave. It was a wave. It was so wild.
At the Empress Ballroom.
Man.
You talked about it in the letter saying
I feel like that was 8 years ago.
Feels like yesterday to me. I was there with my wife watching, and it was like, I mean, it's a big room. It's like 5,000-6,000 people. It's almost Brixton. And I was like, these are all underplays from here on out. It just felt gigantic. You talked about it sending a shockwave up your body and the feeling you got when you played it for the first time. There is something about the chemistry, the way that when the band kicks in and Ronnie and Dave with the drums.
Yeah, it's so cool. That's a great intro.
It's just so electrifying.
I wish it was my idea. I don't remember whose it was.
But can you just elaborate a little bit on that feeling, and even today when it starts, what it feels like for you being on the horse?
Yeah, it's you realize over time there's so much to take in when you're playing it live, because there's some people that have been to 50 shows, and there's going to be some people it's their first time seeing it, and so I feel like a duty and an obligation to give it like I'm in Blackpool again, and it's our first time, and I still am able to hear it through those people's anticipations, even though I might have played it 800 times, and I still get just as excited to play songs like that.
That was the album you played Glastonbury for the first time, headlined the Pyramid Stage. Album
That's
number
right.
2.
Yeah, they asked us on album 1, and we turned it down.
Smart.
And that's one of I think about that sometimes. Some of those moves that we made. We had an insane offer for When You Were Young from Dodge, and we said no. And we were babies. It was money.
Like 7 figures.
It was
crazy.
It was money that
life changing.
And we said no.
Can you remember? I
won't say exact, or I don't know what if you want. Anyway, it was a lot of money.
So how much was it? Fuck it. What did they
Let's say it's like $5 million.
Jesus Christ.
And we're
young kids.
We're kids. My dad made $20,000 a year at the grocery store.
What was that conversation like?
It was tough. It took us days. We thought about it.
Yeah.
And we thought about things like a Rock. You know that the Chevy commercials, Seeger song.
So you're trying to convince yourselves. You're like, Seeger did it. Because there are reasons. Listen, when Jack White did a Coke ad, all bets are off. Do you remember? The White Stripes did the Coke ad. Everyone was up in arms, and someone said to him, "Why did you do it?" And he said, "I drink it."
That's true. I mean,
you can't
none of us had a Dodge, I guess.
You would have done.
So anyway, I think about those kind of decisions, and it's like, man, we're cooler than we think.
You've always been cooler than you've thought. You've always been cooler than you've thought. That's what makes you cool. What? Who comes to mind when you have to make those decisions? There's somebody in the back of your mind that you admire, some artist that held the line. I mean, you became friends with Lou Reed. There isn't anyone who walked the line harder than Lou Reed.
That's right. Those guys, a lot of the greats are like that. If you look at that point, Springsteen would have just entered the equation for us, and so you know that he wouldn't have done it, and that would have been probably leading the way at that time for sure in 2006.
There are things you have to do in order to continue to maintain your success in the first 5 to 10 years of your career as a musician and artist. Perhaps they're nuanced now because there's other things you have to do on your own terms. Maintain social media profiles, get a TikTok account, things like, do I really want to do that? I have to do it. Back then it was more structured. It felt more industry orientated, a ton of this, a ton of that. I'm probably on the list. A ton of stuff you're just tired, you don't want to do, you have to do. When you think back on that era, how comfortable, difficult, challenging, how much of a learning curve was that? Finding success and then realizing that it's hard work holding on to it.
Yeah. I think it was a lot more work than any of us anticipated. Even all the way down, I think people we say it and I don't know if they believe me, but we weren't even thinking about making music videos and what that entailed. Or you're just in there and you're getting to know each other and having fun making music.
Yeah.
And it felt like overnight we were just, and I know how lucky we were to have it happen so quickly, but we just got thrust onto this machine. And I was not prepared to be doing interviews. Yeah. I'm still a little socially maybe behind or awkward, and I definitely was when I was 23 years old.
Yeah.
And I was, and so my first thing was I'm just going to do a little bit of a Liam maybe, or and stick my chest out.
I remember that.
Yeah, so it felt it's so easy to say.
Why is Brandon? That's not. Why did he say that? I remember the enemy
say
would be
mean
like,
things.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I didn't have anything else to say. I didn't know what I was doing yet. I was just a baby.
Who'd you pick fights with again? There was some. I can't remember. There was.
Oh, it was all over. But anyway, I did apologize to I think almost everybody. So that's under the bridge.
I'm trying to remember. I know it is, but it's a good. It's a good time. It's a good time to remember, but it's a good time to remind your friends their dick era,
Yeah, well, the enemy, they would eat it up, and it was just so easy to be controversial.
But if you think about it now, it's almost charming the way it used to roll out through the enemy filter, because it was like, hey, we're the platform, and you guys want our headlines, and we're willing to give them to you, and it's all just a big playground. Now, on social media, it's like, thank God you got out of that, because that's a fucking shit show.
I know.
That's a shit show.
It's not who I am. Yeah, like you said, it's not who I am. So I'm thankful I figured that out.
So when did you figure it out? What was the song? What's the moment on this album when you started to feel more comfortable in your own identity and not have to live up to what you thought people wanted?
I think so we had our first son. Me and my wife had our first son in 2007. And so it was somewhere, there's a big change started to happen. It's amazing what it does to you. You evolve.
I know, because we had kids around the same time.
Yeah, and so I started the softening process. I watched my dad. He's 79. He's going to be 79. And it's amazing to watch from when he was, in the prime of his life till now, his views and the edges, everything just sort of has softened and softened and softened. And I think that was the first instance in my life where that process began.
Was he tough on you when you were younger?
He's very mysterious to me. He's a quiet, he doesn't talk a lot. But it's just how he is. And he was good. No, he wasn't too hard to me.
But it obviously is one of the reasons why you went to music and found a space to let your imagination and your soul run free.
Yeah, it's a funny story that I also have. You just want me to bear my whole
just this one time.
I'll try to make it not too long, but everyone asks me, where does the music come from? Is your family musical? And I've always sort of pridefully said, no one is.
Yeah.
I did this by myself.
Right.
And what's funny is I just had forgotten. There's my great grandma. She wrote country songs and poetry. And when I was 6 years old, her kids were going to put her in a home. And my mom, her granddaughter, said, I want to take her. And we took her till she died. And she came, they brought all of her belongings in a horse trailer, out to the desert where we lived, and just dumped Dixie and all of our things off at our house. And one of the items was a piano. And that just changed. That's where I got my piano lessons. Although I would have never played music without that.
Amazing.
And now I just think about this woman, and it's like there must be something that gets passed down. And I'm so grateful for my grandma.
It doesn't have to be a gigantic influence or a seismic activity in your life. My grandmother's name was Dixie, funnily enough. We called her Dixie, yeah.
Crazy.
But my grandfather played guitar, and he would play every now and then in local pubs or whatever, but he wasn't like a recording artist per se that I'm aware of. And but that presence really stayed with me. The sense of how when he would pick the guitar up, everything else would fall away. Whatever conversations had reached boiling point between my mom and her mom and da-da-da-da was always feisty. Everyone would just listen.
Yeah,
it's like, great. Oh, cool. I'm going to go through a few of these songs, get some thoughts, man. All these things that I've done. It's such a beautiful recording, but it will never live up to the experience of seeing that song live.
Yeah.
And the coda, the moment when it goes into the beginning of the end, and then it really becomes about where the crowd takes it. And you have to follow that moment. Was that a huge graduation moment for you as a live band? Because it whether you mean it to or not, it is creating connective tissue with you and a crowd.
Yeah, there's this communal experience. When we started, we were playing it in bars, and we played the middle section the I Got Soul But I'm Not a Soldier section.
Yeah.
We played it just how it is on the album. We didn't add, now we sort of extend the hell out.
Yeah. Give the people their shot.
And we started to realize, because we took it off for a while. We would go out, we'd be opening for Stella Star, and we would play. We had 5 songs to play or whatever.
Hit them with the big ones. Just smash them with the quick ones. Yeah.
So we took that one. We started taking it off because it wasn't happening.
Yeah.
But then something just clicked, and we started to become more cognizant of being performers and a live band, and bringing all of these people to have this experience, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And it's just
I've seen festival performances when you've done that song, and I'm looking at the bill and who's coming on next, and I'm like, this is bad. This is bad for you.
It's amazing.
You were dangerous at those 6 p.m. slots before you headlined, and you were playing those 6 p.m. slots before Glastonbury when it all changed. You were a problem. I mean, you'd have to be Queens of the fucking Stone Age to go on after you or something. You know what I mean? It's like completely different kind of power. Powerful song. Are you any closer to understanding where that lyric came from?
Oh yeah, it's always made sense to me, and it's funny. There was there were people that sort of made fun of it and had some fun with it. I think somebody there was a famous comedian in England that had some joke about I've got ham,
but I'm not a hamburger.
But I'm not a hamster.
God, you gotta love gotta love you, British.
No, but
it's not your fault.
No,
mate.
it was also there was a British writer who I don't remember. I'd have to find the article, but he actually laid it out what it meant, and he said it perfectly.
So
and this was only a couple of years ago that came out. Just that it is. For me at the time, I was struggling with my faith, and I grew up raised in a religious family, and I've since become more devout again. But at this time, I was in this weird sort of nether region. I hadn't been going to church, but I felt that I was still a good person, and so that's basically the gist of I Got Soul, but I'm not a soldier. When people that are in the LDS church that I was raised in, when you turn 19, you go on a mission. If you want to go on a mission, you're not forced to go on a mission.
Sure.
For 2 years, like my brother went to Chile for 2 years, and you serve. And when I was 19, I bought Hunky Dory from David Bowie.
That was your mission?
And that was it, man. It was like when I got Hunky Dory, for whatever reason, it's this masterpiece that seems unattainable to a mere mortal. But for me, it was like, this is what I'm going to shoot for.
What was your experience with Bowie?
He really, really influential on me in my late teens, because it's funny because a lot of the groups that I grew up listening to were all of them were influenced by him, and I didn't get to him till the end of it, and so I had so much fun. Like when I was 18 to 22, I OD'd on it. Yeah. I can't even. Yeah. Another highlight for us, he came to see us, I think, at the Bowery Ballroom. Yeah. Before anybody even had cameras on their phones.
Did he knock on the door?
So I think he did. Yeah, and he had some producers with him, and it was pretty amazing.
Was it the only time you met him?
Yes, and man, I mean, talk about being nervous and your nerves and a test for a young band.
That's one of the things I've always loved about you in the band, though, is that as you've become your own form of icon to us and to fans and to other bands, you've never relinquished that sense of being a fan. You don't always get that. Sometimes people decide to trade the feeling, like the perception of fan for artist. I feel like you've always been fan first.
Oh yeah, yeah. I still am so excited by great songs and going back and finding things that I had never heard before, and I'm still really emotionally attached.
Well, it makes sense that you and Elton have become so close. He and I are close because he is the world's greatest music fan.
Yeah.
And, I know that he has been an enormous guide for you throughout the years as well in lots of different ways, as he has for me.
Yeah.
In your own words, because he's spoken so openly and eloquently about you and how much he loves you and the band. What has that relationship meant to you throughout the years?
It was so huge, especially in the early days, to have someone. I mean, he's like it's like mythical. So it's weird that some of these guys are just are breathing and walking among us.
Yeah, it's true.
And he's one of those, maybe there's 10 like that on the earth, And for him to back the band and talk about this, he would talk about somebody told me, or he loves Read My Mind, or and it's stuff like that. He's like, the way that he would talk about the music and about the way we played live, it was just, you could walk a little bit taller after that. Yeah. And a band needs that.
He's the great confidence instiller.
Yeah.
He'll take it away too.
Real quick.
He'll tell you.
Oh, yeah, he will.
It's not your best.
He's told me.
Yeah, I've had great conversations with him.
But I think about, he transcends everything.
Yeah.
And some of the greatest memories I have with my dad, it's not a talk that we had. It's on a road trip listening to Elton's greatest hits.
Yeah, sharing a moment.
It's just fucking awesome music. And it was like, those were some of the, like I said, some of the most tender moments that I can think of are just me and my dad sitting and listening to those songs.
I also love the relationship, obviously, he's had throughout his life with Bernie as a lyricist. I love Bernie's lyrics. Bernie has an ability to make words work together that shouldn't. I feel like Are We Human or Are We Dancer could have been like a Bernie Taupin lyric to me.
Yeah, I could see that.
I can imagine Elton singing it and everyone going, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, if he did it, he probably wouldn't have got as much shit.
So okay, let's get to the bottom of this, because you talk about it in the letter. I'm kind of, as you can tell, weaving through some of the points of the letter.
Oh, you did? Well. So you do have the letter.
I've got the letter. It's beautiful, yeah. And so I want to talk about the lyric, because I always thought the lyric was, I love it when things are subliminally eccentric in lyrics, but sound normal. But let's just get to the root of the lyric. Where were you when you wrote it? Did it catch you off guard? Were you like, that surprised me even? Like, where does a line like that come from?
I knew it was weird, and we were touring Sam's Town, so I had a mustache.
Yeah, you were leaning in.
So and I was wearing boots when I wrote Human.
Yeah.
And I saw an interview, probably or some on the internet, of Hunter S. Thompson, and he said, this is an old interview, obviously, and he said, I'm afraid that we're raising a generation of dancers. And I just instantly, wrote something down and went, and I would play.
But singular, not plural.
Now I know. I still took some license.
Because that's the moment that I think everyone has analyzed, is not the term "Are we human or are we dancers?" It's the fact that it's singular.
That's right.
Like, am I dancer? Yeah, you're dancer. Oh, cool. I'm just making sure. Because it sounds normal when you say it, but when we heard it...
It was a similar time to there was this rise of DJs.
Yeah.
And so I was seeing parallels between this culture and maybe how people were looking at disco.
Shit, you were like, this is a Daft Punk observation.
So I don't want to go much further than that, because I'm not trashing that whole thing. But
sure. Well, you just made a dance record. The fucking new one on the best of's a dance record.
So it was like it was sort of thinking like that, and trying to see where we were going as our generation that was changing.
Yeah.
And it was, and a lot of it, Vegas was really at the forefront of all of that.
Oh, for sure. No, you prophesized it to some degree.
Yes.
But at the time, you're right. It really caught people off guard. I think anything like that comes along that people like but don't understand, they can decide whether it changes their perception of it. And I think some people decided it's weird and I don't like it, but later on they all scream it back at you. Did you kind of like that? Did you like the fact that you'd created an eccentric subliminal shift?
I felt like if Bowie or somebody had the line, nobody would have cared, or they would have just, and so it felt like that to me. It felt like Brian Ferry or David Bowie or something like that.
I love that on the track listing here, the 20 songs over 20 years. It's not ill-weighted at all. You've absolutely paid respects to the albums that you've made as you've continued, and so you should. I mean, shit, man, when you came out with The Man, you opened with it at Lollapalooza, and it was like everyone had been listening to it for 20 years. I mean, validation again, So you continue to write these songs that continue to sit beautifully next to the songs we've known for longer. But how is that experience seeing them in relation? Because it's not just the band that has changed sonically and by design, it's also personally.
Yeah.
There are songs on here that I don't know. Did Mark play on all of them? You know?
Yeah, he might not have played on a few of them.
Right. And so how does that how do you kind of come to terms with that when you're presenting the Killers discography?
Yeah. So yeah, we if people aren't aware, we've come to an agreement within the band where there are Dave and Mark are still in the band, but they are sort of we call it like a revolving door situation. Dave's going to be around sometimes, Mark's going to be around sometimes, and so on these last few tracks on the best of, you may have some that have just Dave, or some that have Mark, or some that don't have Dave or Mark. But they still feel very, very much like Killer songs, and there's the one, like what you're speaking about with this, the one thread that runs through all of this is just this the authentic, I think, pursuit of finding ourselves, and that's something that isn't going to disappear.
You were very respectful when there were shifts in the dynamic of the band. That's just chum in the water for music press and music fans. It's like, shit, these 4 dudes from Vegas, it's like the fucking dream is over, right? Like, oh man, where's Dave? Like, oh, where's Mark? And oh, it's just Brandon's band now. And it's just like, and you never rose to it. But I do get to ask you 20 years on, I'm so glad you're in this situation where people can pick and choose and whatever works in the it's very flow state.
Yep.
That approach. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
See you on Monday.
Yeah.
See you next Monday, But was that hard to get to that place for you and for Ronnie, who have been consistent throughout? Was it hard for you to find a way to be able to rationally and emotionally accept the new reality versus feel even yourself, this isn't the dream?
Yeah. I mean, because it is the ideal situation is, the 4 of you can stick it out, yeah, and figure it out. And we just are such different individuals, and we didn't, going back to, it's always a band that you go back to, or you look at Coldplay, or you look at U2 or something like that. These people, they seem to know each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And we are from different backgrounds, and we didn't know each other for very long before this all kicked off.
Yeah.
It was very, very quick, and we've evolved in different ways over the years. But yeah, so it's some of the things that me and Ronnie don't understand about the other two, that are, they have just as many glaring things that they don't understand about why me and Ronnie are okay to go do 100 gigs every year.
Yeah.
And so but like what you said before, what's great is we found this arrangement with that still will work, and it can still, you might see 4 of us play together again. You might not, but it still can work.
It's a very modern loyalty. It's like you have a very high EQ in the band now to be able to do that.
It's like you said, it took a little bit of getting used to and grappling with and wrestling with, but I'm really happy with how it's turned out.
There's a beautiful story in the letter about Runaways. And it seemed to me like a real moment for you to realize that the metric of value has changed. That it doesn't need to be a number 1 at radio for it to matter to somebody in a store,
right,
who has a one-on-one conversation with you. And if you haven't read the letter when this comes out, please paraphrase the story. But I also love, and I'd love you to sort of elaborate beyond the story about how that maybe changed the future of the band, because that chase for the eternal validation based on like numbers and stats and radio hits, you got to shift your mentality at some point.
That's right.
Everyone does.
Yeah. It's, you have to, music has had such a profound impact on me that at some point, if you have gratitude, for what's happened when you're in a position like mine, you have to think about what you're doing and what you're putting out and what kind of a service you're offering. And so back to the story that you're talking about, I met this young man that had his wife was pregnant. He had a new wife and a baby on the way, and he got Runaways. He understood what the song was talking about. I was just getting to that age where people were starting to get divorced, and I was, it was kind of wild for me to watch my friends go through that, and thinking about where my country was headed, and all of these things, and trying to get my feelings into this song. You got 4 minutes to do it, which is a short time.
It's heady subject matter.
Yeah. And so that may be maybe the first song with 3 verses. Which that's breaking
Wow.
that's breaking the
That's true.
that's breaking the
First
pop
chorus,
cycle.
first chorus, middle, eight.
And then there's
done
another
chorus and you're out. Yeah.
And so we have a third verse, because to get all of that in there, you might need three verses. Anyway, this kid understood the song, and it touched him in a way that it made him think about what he was doing and how he wanted his life to go, and how he wanted it to go differently than maybe what he was subjected to growing up.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's just powerful for me to hear that it had gotten through to him, even though it wasn't getting blasted on the radio like the other songs.
But wasn't that the point of the song in a weird way? At some point, if you're raised by Springsteen, you have to have the courage Springsteen had to walk away from Born to Run.
That's right. It's people like that, trailblazers like that, have so much to offer us if we keep our eye on them.
How do you stay in the room with someone like Springsteen? How do you even control yourself in situations like that?
I'm getting better at it. I'm not numb to it. But if you can just maybe take a beta blocker No, I'm just joking. No, I'm getting better. It took me a while to get to be able to be around Elton. But yeah, and Bruce has been so accommodating and taking me under his wing a little bit. And
how much of those relationships now do you search for? Okay, it's about what you. It's not like we develop friendships to mine for things or to use friendships, but they inevitably influence. So,
that's right.
So in the beginning, I'd imagine it's like the trade is like, your music is the reason I make music. So let me just figure this dynamic out.
Yeah.
But then a lot of the people that you surround yourself with built very successful lives for themselves away from all of this. Bruce Springsteen, right? His second marriage is incredible legacy of the balance between family and being the boss. Elton and David, Lou Reed and Laurie Anderson, does it get to a point where you start to look for different things from people who are older than you in this business because you realize, like, actually, I want that too. I want to know how you did that.
Yeah, I can't help but try to observe what they're doing, because they're, like you said, they're successful. They're so otherworldly successful with their music, but they also have this other success.
Yes.
And that one of the great lines from John Lennon when he's in Woman is he thanks Yoko for showing him the meaning of success. He was in the Beatles.
Yeah.
And so
That's
goes
beautiful.
Yeah, it makes me think about like the things I learned growing up about what kind of friends you're going to have and what things you should seek after. And so that was a big, and I just don't want this to be a big Springsteen advert, but it was a huge change for me because you go from worshiping things like Depeche Mode, who I still love.
Same.
But there was a lot of hedonism and debauchery and all of that.
Yeah, this is a redemption story.
Yeah, that's good. So you have that kind of stuff, and then it's like, oh wait, here's this guy that sings about things that he's speaking a language that I understand.
Yeah.
He's singing about people like my parents.
Yeah.
And he's been married for 35 years, and he's got his kids are great, and it's like, okay, I'm starting.
He's a domestic badass.
Yeah,
it's like you can still build a beautiful life for yourself and not leave the fire at the front door.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. And so you just start. It's another testament to those guys that are able to do both of those things.
Let's talk about Dying Breed. I want some reflection. I love that song. It's something that came again in sort of this latest era of the band-ish. I feel like we're on the verge of a new era, by the way, so I'll call it the latest era. I'd love to get a story about where that song came from, because it really is a standout for me in this collection. I'm glad you chose it.
Well, I'm a religious person.
Yeah.
And so it's I think back to that, people want an authentic artist, and it's impossible for me to be authentic and communicate through songs without
and
referencing.
Ignore that. Yeah.
And so every year my church gives a different curriculum. So it'll be the Old Testament, The next year it'll be the New Testament. Next year we have a book called the Book of Mormon. And that year it was the New Testament. And everything was about becoming reconciled with God and becoming reconciled with each other. And so we made this album, Imploding the Mirage, where I just leaned into what I was reading and made this record that's all based on that. Mm-hmm. And so Dying Breed was no different. And it's just about letting my wife know that I'm hers, and that she sometimes struggles with a little bit of anxiety about my job and want, what's can be difficult.
How far
for
are you
her.
going to take this?
Yeah, and
how far down the road is this going to go? Yeah,
and what worries about temptations that I might have or whatever it is, and this is just like this. Yeah. It's almost just as much for me as it is for her to remind each other of our the convictions.
When you commit to religion as a child, it to some degree it can be handed down to you, and it feels like something
sure.
that's swept up in the family dynamic. Much easier to have a conversation when everyone's on the same page. Mm-hmm. Then you make a decision later on that you're going to form your own identity, and then you get to decide whether you come back or not. This has happened. I don't say this as a general rule, but this is what I've tended to see with my friends who have gone back into the religious community. It's been very much on their terms when they come back, not what was pre-designed for them. So my question, Brandon, is what is it that brought you back, and what is it that it gives you as an adult, as an individual, not a member of a family? Why did you go back, and how does it serve you to be a better person?
Yeah. So weird to talk about. Okay, it's not weird to talk about. Genuine
curiosity, because I love
sure.
religion I love the idea of community and family and something to serve and something that gives solace and prayer for ambition and for love. No. But I think there is a misunderstanding for people who don't understand.
Right. They think you're naive, or you're gullible, or you're just programmed to believe this.
And this is that's why I set it up and said this was your decision to go back.
Yeah, I'm drawn. So there's this great scripture that says, let me think of the scripture. Okay, ready for this? My Father sent me that I might be lifted up upon the cross. That after I was lifted up upon the cross, that I might draw all men unto me. Mm. I feel drawn by Jesus Christ. Mm. And I feel drawn to him. I want to follow him. And when I do, my life is better. Mm. Well, you could put it to the test. And when I don't, I feel the repercussions. And if we all, if everyone could do that, imagine what would happen.
I think it's pretty incredible that you've been able to come to terms with that strong attraction, that gravitational pull, and continue to find a way to incorporate it in your music. I've felt for artists that I know come from deep and exist in a deeply religious state who don't feel that they can put that in their art.
Yeah.
That's common.
Yeah, and you don't hear a lot of people speak about it. You look to. I take comfort in people like Johnny Cash. Even Johnny Cash was always devout, whether his actions showed it or not. Yeah, Elvis. Yeah. No, but U2. People like U2.
U2.
I mean, there's a line that they walk, and they've been able to do it just beautifully, and that's of course something that I am aware of and cognizant of, because I share a lot of the same faith that they have.
Yeah. Mr. Brightside, man, we got to go back to the start. We have to. Did you like that, Swerve?
Okay, let me tell the human story too.
Oh yeah, we did. Okay, let's talk about human.
So it's just as important as the when you were young moment was the human moment with Zane Lowe. So he comes to Olympic. We're stuck between human and spaceman for what's first. We don't tell them which songs.
By the way, but at this point, I know what they're going to ask for this time. So I'm coming in with, I'm a little bit like, here we go. All right, I appreciate that. I'm excited to do this.
So we had played Spaceman at some point. Human starts because there's tough. It was difficult within the band because the song, because of that line, I think.
Yeah.
But Human first chorus, Zane's in the back of the room with his arms up. And it was like, all right, we got it.
You've already had it.
No, but we needed confirmation.
That was really interesting is I was 2 for 2 and they never asked me back again after that. So I reckon someone in the band, probably Mark. We don't need that, Kiwi. We got this. Listen, I mean, the thing I always loved about coming in and hearing those songs with you, and I've done it with a few bands, like I'll do it with, I'm sure you'll mind me saying, like I'll definitely go in and with the 75 when they're in process, and there's a few people who I'll go and listen with regularly and stuff when they're making music if they'll invite me. And what I love about it is I genuinely love seeing you lost, because I know that it's going to be incredible because you're not out of the woods yet. You're so immersed in what you're making and what you're trying to finish that, and this is very common. There are people in people's lives who come in and go, that one, because how the heck do you know at that point? I mean, how could you possibly? I don't even know how you finish something and are able to execute and put it out.
It's tough until it's mastered and you made a video or whatever it is, and you just got to let go. And I think our track record has been pretty strong so far about picking the right singles.
Oh, definitely. I fucking love The Man. I mean, I told you when that came out, I loved The Man. I loved that. To me was like you put your Vegas outfit back on, and it was like, oh, I can. That character's just in the closet. I just got to pull him out and put him back on, and that gives you a chance to really take a look at what's going on around you, tongue in cheek, but also very direct. Really, really fine line you walked on that song, beautifully.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun because it's funny too. I struggle with it live because some people in the crowd, some people get it.
Yeah.
Some people don't get it. Some people get it and love it. Some people get it and hate it. Some people don't get it.
Well, some people will feel like you're talking about them, because to me it is the closest thing that the Killers can get to almost making a little bit of a political statement. That's what I took from it. And I know you dressed it up in a way of like there's all kinds of power, in that world. But I always took it as like, you really want to trust the man?
Yeah, I want to, got to leave some things open to interpretation.
Yeah. Mr. Brightside, we're going to go back to the start as we near the end. Is there a story about Brightside that immediately springs to mind that you've never really told or never really elaborated on that you could share with us today? Because it's really where our relationship began, and I've asked you about it dozens of times.
Yeah, I'll try to think. Yeah, there's a couple. There's little things I've talked about before. I've talked a little bit about seeing Oasis at the Hard Rock in Vegas at the Joint, and I wasn't a huge fan yet. I became a big fan later. But I walked in. I just went in to see the encore. I got in just in time to see the encore. A guy gave me a ticket. I would hang out at the Hard Rock.
Yeah.
And I saw "Don't Look Back in Anger," and up to that point I was all synth pop, and I'd never experienced anything like this. People were hugging and shouting, and just singing along.
Yeah.
And that experience made me, instead of look for another synth geek, I wanted to find a band.
And you wanted to write an anthem.
Yeah, and I wanted to respond to that.
And you've seen that from the stage how many times? I mean, you've seen millions of people respond to that song over the course of the 20 years of the band. Are there little images once in a while that spring to mind of individuals, the way they responded, the tears or the emotion, the hugs, the smiles? Can you be micro about it? Can you store it that way?
I don't know if I can. I don't get, people ask if I get tired of it and all of that. How
could you get tired of that fucking song?
No, it's fun.
I've never put that song on and wanted to turn it off once.
I'll try to think. So the chord. Okay, you want to get technical with the chord. So
yeah.
So the chorus is C sharp, F sharp, B flat minor, A flat major.
Yeah.
So we were going through like that geeky phase where you want to know what bands are doing with chords or whatever. I mean, that With or Without You is cyclical. And so it's the same 4 chords over and over and over. So if it was in that scale, it would have been C sharp, A flat, B flat minor, F sharp. So anyway, just those shapes. So I took those 4 and just changed them a little bit and wrote Brightside. So it was still just trying to be U2.
I fucking love that though. There's nothing wrong with that. This is the thing. Like, why would you not take the song that made you feel something and see if you could just change it ever so slightly and see if you can get the same reaction and speed it up and make people jump?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing I love about that song so much is it's a deeply emotional moment for people. You're immediately remembering someone that you love or you miss or a great time in your life or you're healing from a terrible time in your life. It's rare that songs you can put 10 people next to each other and everyone's going through a different thing, but it's all with the same purpose.
I can't quite wrap my head around being on the other side of it still, because I don't feel like it was that long ago that I was out there in the crowd and looking for those moments and sharing those moments with people. I mean, man, I remember I saw The Cure with the guys early on, and I just got emotional during Pictures of You.
Yeah.
Ronnie still makes fun of me for it. Yeah. But it's like, you just like, it's like you said, that same thing was just reminded me of my brother or whatever it was. And I got hit by it.
You've given us 20 of these now there's so many that could have gone on here. The good news is the albums exist. I mean, Johnny maybe could have gone on there, but that's just me. I don't know how you ignore that riff. I don't know how you enjoy it. That's like one of the all-time greatest riffs ever made written in modern rock music.
I need to bring that one out, yeah.
Do you still play that live?
You know what it was? You know what that was based off?
What?
California Dreamin'.
No shit.
It is, yeah.
Oh my God, I never picked that at all.
You could probably
play them side by side.
Yeah.
The letter's beautiful, and the decades disappear. 2 to be exact. Poof, gone. Where do they go? I mean, we're meeting at Ronnie's after I get off this next shift at the Gold Coast, right? No and yes. Fuck, man. 20 years. Isn't it crazy?
It's crazy. I got 20 more in me.
I know, and I love the way you finish it. You know, we're not done. I feel like... Why do I feel like there's music around the corner? Am I off the mark?
No, I think we are planning maybe some anniversary shows, which I wish that I could tell more. It just keeps getting
underplayed. Surely, why would you go and why would you not celebrate by going and getting sweaty and up close?
Yeah, well, so we'll figure something out there, and then it's my.
Oh, they're fucking here! I won't say anything. They are small. Yo, one of those is fucking small, dude. Oh my God, bro, that is like. I might have to come out for that.
All right, and then
he's like, "Please stop talking."
What else? Anyway, yeah. I think the goal, the goal for me, which we need to get everybody on the phone, is to get all 4 of us to make a record.
Yeah, because I understand that touring takes its toll, but making music is still fun, right? Even for Mark and Dave, and if the chemistry is still there and you're all still the killers, regardless of who shows up for work, then making an album's got to be the low-hanging fruit here in terms of
it's
energy.
Time. Yeah, definitely time.
Fuck, how exciting. Who would you get to produce that? I mean, you've worked with so many amazing producers and covered so much ground. I mean, the new song Spirit sounds almost like you're working with Stuart again.
Yeah, that's Stuart.
It is Stuart.
Yeah, Stuart.
Skadoosh.
So I have a couple of people on my, we like John Congleton.
Love him.
Got to find people the Eno and Lamois. I need to find my Eno and Lamois.
Dude, why don't you just go to Eno and Lamois?
It's not a bad idea.
What the fuck are we talking about here? I've got to find my Eno and Lamois. One's over there and one's over there.
You got. It's just so U2. But yeah,
it hasn't stopped you before. You wrote your biggest hit off with or without you.
All right.